Hello, lovelies, and welcome to launch day for the Wild Anemone. Betrayal always offers the choice: become bitter or better. Well, today we are launching the second in the Red Velvet and Anemone series. The Pagosa Cliffs Collection is now getting a new member. The story of Millie is continuing as she settles down into her life in Pagosa Cliffs. She's starting her new bakery. She and Lloyd are still having a hit or miss romance, and it's going to be an interesting ride. It's been a very, very busy last week for me, and none of it has had to do with getting ready for the book. Unfortunately, my stepmother Vera did pass away. She had Alzheimer's, and so it's that bittersweet blessing and kind of I'm going to miss her. She was, she was sometimes difficult, but she was an extremely honest person, and she never hesitated to tell you exactly what she thought when she thought it, regardless of how much it hurt. And I appreciated that in her. I know that there were those who just thought she was brusque, but I thought she was pretty amazing for her life. And she was one of the most faithful people I had ever met. So, um, yeah. So let me show you the cover. I think that it turned out very well. Portia did an amazing job. Her link is below. She has done the covers for most of the books for Editingle Indie House. They have been really amazing. Just um, so much on their plate, so much trying to get done. They've done Halloween anthologies 3 years in a row. They've published several books by a half a dozen authors, and I really appreciate that they have supported Millie's story and have picked up the Pagosa Cliffs Collection to be able to tell this storyline that I have about overcoming and learning to be better and not bitter and forgiveness. And so I'm very grateful to Michelle and Rucha and Catherine and Portia for just all the support. So without further ado, yes, I'm going to read again today because I love it. Yes. I even have coffee cups. I have the Wild Anemone Bakery, Pagosa Cliffs, Colorado. You know, I gave a friend of mine one of these cups with the book because she was so just wonderfully supportive. I gave her, when I ordered these, just to see what they would look like, I gave her one of the cups. And when she was leaving a certain someone who he shall never be named, you know who you are. I have coyotes I will feed you. Okay. Um, he was like, "Who did you go with to Pagosa Cliffs, Colorado? Where's this bakery?" And I was standing right there because I was helping her pack to leave. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, that's the bakery from my book. It's dedicated to her." And in the book, you're Edgar. Yeah, he went and got the book off the shelf and looked it up, and then he gave me such a look for the rest of the day, and I was like, you, yes, I know what you are, behavior. So, yeah, a little bit of overlap into reality, but it's funny. It was funny to me, it was funny to her that he would get so jealous over a coffee cup from a pretend bakery in a pretend town in the mountains of Colorado. She deserves better. Oh, kind of like Millie. So we will see. We will see. But right now, I'm going to read you a little excerpt from the Wild Anemone, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm calling the sheriff as soon as I hang up, Millie snapped. Go ahead. It's your funeral. He won't arrest me anyway. We're old buddies. My father was his high school football coach, Asher bragged. Are you threatening me? Asher laughed hatefully. Look, nobody wants you here. No one will believe you if you tell them anything. If they ask, I'll just say you destroyed old Miss Elizabeth's place yourself because you're a crazy Vegas whore. Get out of Pagosa Cliffs if you know what's good for you. Good day to you, Mr. Palmer. I'll see you in court, and you can tell your wife I will no longer be baking for her bridge club, and she will need to find another baker to make her daughter's wedding cake next month. The recording of the call ended. Sheriff Tank Tanner swallowed the bitter taste in his mouth. Asher Colmer was an old friend and schoolmate of his best deputy. Tank had known Asher since he was 10. Why did you record the call, Miss Haywood? Because it isn't the first time he has talked to me this way, Sheriff Tanner. I have several recordings. He's a racist and a hater, Millie gritted out. Her anger was wearing off, and she wanted to weep, but she would not let herself break down. Look, I don't want any trouble from anyone. I just want to finish my bakery so I can open it. I know he's your friend, but I have rights too. Miss Millie, I'm not saying you don't. And the man on the recording is not the man I thought my friend was. You have every right to press charges, and I will see whatever a judge and jury decide is carried out to the full letter of the law, Tank promised. I will find him and arrest him today. I will send one of my deputies over to take photographs of the damage. I also need copies of the contract and any recordings you have. I'm very sorry, Miss Millie. This is not the kind of town Pagosa Cliffs is. Fine. I'll be waiting. Do you want the canceled cashier's checks I've paid him with too? Millie inquired. Yes, ma'am. Anything that is proof of your business dealing with him, he nodded. Turning her back on him to look at her destroyed dreams, she bit the inside of her cheeks before adding, I'm sorry to tell you, Sheriff Tanner, but this is exactly the kind of town Pagosa Cliffs. Okay, I'm going to skip a little bit. Deputy Vic Stanley stared around the destroyed property. He met Millie Haywood once at Ben Wallace's funeral. He only knew the gossip his mother shared about her while they were eating the cake she made. Gossip, Veranda claimed, was all lies. It was the best cake he ever tasted. Wow, this is a mess, the young deputy stated, and hated himself for saying what was so obvious. The young woman before him just nodded. She seemed to slump. Sheriff Tanner told me to get copies of everything you have and ask you to visit the station to give your statement. Again, Millie just nodded. Her chin trembled as she hugged herself. Vic realized they must be the same age. but she seemed so much younger and vulnerable. He hooked her phone to his tablet and listened to the files, as the files were copied. The cake you served at Mr. Wallace's funeral was really good. I've never tasted anything like it. My mom is Veranda Stanley from the school cafeteria. She says you're the best baker she's ever met. He rambled on, trying to make small talk. Red-rimmed, pale green eyes looked up at him. Her voice was so soft he almost didn't hear it. Thank you. Grandpa Ben liked it. It's called black velvet. I just didn't expect the last time I made it for him to be the day he... Millie? Before she could say more, Lloyd's voice echoed from the front room, and Millie ran to him, almost tackling him. Looking down at her face, Lloyd's eyes were etched with worry. Tank told me that Asher Colmer threatened you and vandalized the anemone. Are you okay? Did he do this? Millie nodded, sniffing. He said he'd do the remodel, but every week he got meaner and meaner until today, when he said if I tried to get him arrested, it was my funeral, and people like me don't belong here. Lloyd's head pivoted to take in the destruction, as his arms held her protectively. He was in his ranch work clothes and not his uniform, so Millie knew it was his day off. She felt bad because he came all the way to town for her. Yeah, I heard Coach Wally ripped him hard at the cafe in front of everyone when she heard. Look, don't worry about it. We have people coming to help you once Vic gets done processing the scene, Lloyd promised, trying hard to control his anger. Do you think they'll want something to eat? I only have a little left to pay them until I get my money back from Mr. Colmer, she mumbled, hating how pathetic it sounded. All her years of pinching every penny to have the bakery ruined by one highly recommended but hateful contractor. Darlin', I think we would all work for cake if you baked it. Lloyd smiled down at her reassuringly. Except you. You hate cake. Lloyd chuckled at her observation. I know, I'm not normal. Can I have his piece? Vic asked sheepishly, trying to lighten the mood. Millie laughed then, but it was a sad sound. Sure, I'll be next door. She gave them a forced smile before slipping out of Lloyd's arms and through the back door as his arms tried not to miss holding her. After Millie left, Lloyd scowled at the walls. He ran his hand over several holes as he walked around. It looked like someone had wandered around and put random holes with a sledgehammer through the centuries-old lath and plaster. He didn't know if it could be fixed or if it would have to be torn out. Why the hell would Asher do something like this? He's never had a dishonest bone in his body until now. He bought into the gossipy lies going around about her. She has recordings of several conversations. Man, I never would have believed AC said any of it if I hadn't heard them myself. Who the heck has it out for Miss Haywood? My mom says she's a sweetheart, and she seems really nice, Vic answered Lloyd's pondering question as he analyzed the crime scene. She is really nice, Lloyd responded in a clipped tone. He knew exactly who was spreading all the lies. So you and her are really... Vic left the sentence hanging in the middle to not offend the older deputy. No, we are just friends. Lloyd's vehement denial stopped Vic from digging further. Lloyd sighed, bending to stack boxes of flooring. He was worried the wood might be warped from being piled so carelessly. Vic, don't ever believe anything you hear in this town. The gossip here is a poison that leaches into everyone who listens to it. It's just rumors. No one really believes it. Really? Lloyd snorted derisively, then went on. Look what it did to Asher. He's a good guy who thought it was okay to swindle and threaten a woman he knew nothing about because someone else lied to him. Now he is facing criminal charges, and once the insurance decides the amount of all this damage, it could be felony charges. His business is ruined, even if he makes it all right. No one will ever trust him again. Lloyd, he cashed checks for nearly $120,000 and made racial slurs. I don't think he's going to be doing anything from the inside of a federal jail cell for hate crimes, Vic revealed, handing over the documents he was inspecting. Lloyd glanced through the pile of receipts and canceled checks, then listened to the recording as Vic took pictures. After listening, he was ready to beat the man he had known his whole life to a pulp. The way AC disrespected Millie made his blood boil. One more little section. Let's see if I can find it. I was scanning. Here it is. It was barely midnight as Lloyd watched Bo Wallace and Pat Tollerson drive away from the Wild Anemone. The three men spent hours examining the damage by flashlight and the generator-powered floodlights Lloyd kept in his patrol SUV for night accidents or crime scenes. And the Wild Anemone was a crime scene in his book. Asher tried to murder the historic building, and with it, Millie's dream of opening her own bakery. It made him angry and feel helpless. As Lloyd coiled the cables, his mind played through all the ways he wanted to hurt his childhood friend for doing such a terrible thing to the woman he... Lloyd hesitated. He knew he cared about Millie. There was something about her sweet yet feisty spirit that attracted him. But he had only felt this kind of vindictive protectiveness once before. The thought worried him. Long ago, back in high school, he felt this way before, turning on another friend to defend Tanya. He loved Tanya, who proved herself to be everything his former friend warned him about, not once, but twice. Suddenly, he felt very uncomfortable about how good it felt when the distraught Millie flung herself into his arms. It shocked him how quickly his disbelief turned to dark rage while listening to Asher's voice, spewing racism and hatred toward the innocent woman he cared about. Looking around at the vandalism scarring the grand old Victorian, he wondered if he would ever learn to pick his friends more carefully. He could feel the ghost of the old building pressing in around him, urging him to go to Millie, to comfort her. But he couldn't, not with so much unfocused anger in his soul. He wanted to rain destruction on Asher and whoever was with him. Millie was broken enough without his baggage. She needed someone to be gentle with her, not be overcome by the needs to avenge her. He reminded himself that he could not let himself get any closer to Millie. He pulled out his phone and listened to the copies of the recordings, of the recorded messages again. Asher hurt Millie deeply. Lloyd could hear it. His need to avenge her pain was almost overriding his duty to see the letter of the law enforced. Every hateful word drew forth his protective rage, and Lloyd wondered if he could get away with killing Asher Colmer before he shook off the violent thought in favor of watching him rot in prison. As he put his equipment away, Lloyd vowed to find the source of the gossip, and Asher was going to help him, or else. Asher Colmer sat stewing in his cell. He didn't know the woman recorded their phone conversations, or that the tiny baker would have the nerve to call the sheriff. He thought for sure Tank would stand with him. Pagosa Cliffs was no place for people like her. But the things Camille spat at him made the niggling sense of doubt wiggle in his conscience. What if Millie Haywood isn't what I've been told? He believed she looked like someone who could have been a prostitute. She was beautiful in a very unusual way, with caramel-colored skin and just enough freckles to draw one's attention between her striking pale green eyes and her pouty full lips. She was short, but very curvy, with ample breast, and for a moment he wondered if Lloyd had a good time with her breast in Black Bear. Asher shook his head, thinking Lloyd had always been a breast man. Smirking to himself, he pondered if she screwed as good as she baked. AC. Speak of the devil, Asher thought sarcastically. Lloyd was standing just behind the bars, glaring at him like he was the criminal here. Was she such a good lay that you would turn your back on the town you grew up in? AC snarled. On Tanya? On me? I never screwed her, Lloyd answered harshly. I never did any of the things Tanya said, and neither did Millie. Tell me the truth, AC. Did Tanya put you up to them? I know she hates Miss Haywood for no good reason. Okay, let's stop there because this gets into a really long conversation. Well, I hoped you liked it. I look forward to reading the reviews and getting the DMs from everybody who reads it and tell me what you think of it. Millie and Lloyd, such a sweet couple. Such a sweet couple. We'll just have to see what happens. There's 5 more books in the series. I hope you have a lovely day. I hope your Thanksgiving holiday is blessed, that you have lots of food and not a lot of family drama, and that you are as ready for Christmas as you can be. Be blessed and have a lovely day.